Good morning, my federal phoenixes. I was asked to do a video about character reference letters. So I'm going to do this video about character reference letters and personal narratives. You know, when you really think about it, a personal narrative is really just a character reference letter written by you about you, whereas character reference letters are letters written by other people about you. So now, it's a difficult choice for a lot of people, for me particularly, to do a personal narrative. Your personal narrative should give a brief rundown of, a summary, very brief, about your childhood, and since you're now an adult, maybe, point out some pivotal achievements or struggles you faced as an adult. Basically, the purpose of your personal narrative is to give the judge yet another opportunity to see you as a person outside of your crimes, to understand who you are, and where you were at mentally, financially, emotionally, socially, when you committed your crimes. Generally, the idea, a lot of the purpose of a personal narrative is to kind of show the judge that you're not a bad person, or you're a person who has made some bad decisions, possibly resulting, in part, due to the fact that you've had a difficult life or you had difficult circumstances. But remember, when you talk about your struggles you face, maybe you were abused as a child, maybe you've suffered from drug addiction, maybe you were in an abusive relationship and that led you to become a part of a criminal enterprise. When mentioning these things, you always want to follow up with, but I know that does not excuse my crimes. But I know what I was doing at that time was illegal or morally incorrect. You know what I mean? Because again, you don't want to come off as a person who is making excuses for yourself. But you do want the judge to see who you are on a human level and to really, kind of be able to put themselves in your shoes for a second. If you want to mention, for most of us, I think, the process of being, prosecuted in federal court and sentenced and stuff kind of drags out for a period of years. If you want to talk about some of the difficulties that have, as a domino effect of your indictment or your arrest or your home being raided or whatever, some of the difficulties you face subsequent to that, that's okay to mention too. And if anything, that'll help, the judge see that you've already received a certain level of consequence kind of naturally or by default prior to your actual sentencing. Because one of the things the judge has to consider in sentencing is your sentence going to be sufficient to deter other people from committing the same crime? Have you been punished adequately? But now, as far as character reference letters go, personally, I'm not submitting character reference letters. And then my reasoning for this is, even though I could get some, and they'd probably be decent, the people I know that are close enough to me to give a good character reference are people who are not very articulate. And I say that not in a derogatory way, just, in a very basic academic way. That's a very stout observation, and they will acknowledge that. Wonderful people, but not very wordy. And I know that judges really frown upon the thought of you writing the character reference letter, for the person and them kind of just signing it. And so I don't want to go that route either. So character reference letters, you do not want to submit a million. The more you submit, the less likely they're going to be read, individually. So you need to keep that in mind. I think a good number for character reference letters is about half a dozen, is about 6. And if you're a person that can get character reference letters in a professional capacity, John Doe, has came to work on time and performed very well for the, 5+ years he's been with our company. He's a hard worker. He's self-motivated. He's focused. He takes a leadership role. If you can get positive character reference letters, now you do not want a character reference letter from someone that has known you for less than, let's say, 3 to 5 years. Because at that point, they're really not in a position to even speak on you in any way that's meaningful. Now, if you can get professional ones, and what you want to do is get like 2 professional and then 2 personal that come from, if you have these resources, from people that are a little more affluent, and 2 that are personal that come from non-affluent people in society, such as your parents, your adult children, your adult siblings, your best friend, And you want these letters should not address your criminal conduct. These letters should not be, and my nephew or my coworker Jimmy is innocent, and I know he's innocent, or he doesn't deserve to go to jail, they should not be discussing what they think is appropriate for your sentencing. They should not be discussing what their opinion of your criminal conduct or lack thereof. What they should be discussing is, the general rundown should be, you address it to the judge, to the Honorable Judge such and such, or to whom it may concern. My name is so-and-so. I know the defendant, yada yada, from or since, we met wherever, what I know of this person's character is A, B, and C, and I feel that these observations of the character have, have been proven or solidified or have been shown through, various things, such as, an example is, I know Bobby to be a very trustworthy guy, because Bobby, many times, a couple times I didn't have time to go pay my rent. And as my friend, I just gave Bobby my rent money and asked him to do it for me on his way to work because it was out of my way, and he did it, and he never stole a dollar. Or, or Bobby's giving me great, great advice, through some difficult times. I was going through a difficult divorce and I was very upset, and he was there for me. You want things that really illustrate, you want these personal or these character references to really illustrate who you are. You want the judge to be able to read these character reference letters and envision you as someone endearing to him, someone that exists within his life or his social circle that he cares about and respects and doesn't want to see go through any unnecessary hardship. Now, someone said, how the heck do you ask people to do character reference letters? And, they said, I've lost friends because I've asked people to do this. And let me tell you something. If a person hasn't known you for at least 3 to 5 years at a minimum, they're not somebody who knows you well enough to give any type of character reference in our reality. Because the character reference letters definitely need to mention how long a person's known you, how they met you, and what capacity your relationship is. If they just met you 2 years ago, that's not a very good character reference. So if you haven't known a person 3 to 5 years, they're not even a good candidate for your character. I'm trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing here. I'm not good at this. A good candidate to even write you a character reference letter. If a person, upon being asked to write you a character reference letter, is so off-put that they no longer associate with you, that certainly was not your friend. And that was not someone who sees you in a merciful, compassionate, enduring way, which, the narrative of their character reference should portray you as such. So if they don't see you as that, they're not going to portray you as that, and really you're better off without that character reference. I think what the person who asked me to talk about character references and how to ask for them was really referring to is, maybe a coworker, or maybe, your boss. Maybe your boss doesn't know about your criminal charges. And, you go to him and you say, hey, by the way, I got this federal case, I had some tax issues, or I got this loan and kind of misappropriated or whatever. But, I'm a good guy. I'm a good person. Can you write a character reference letter for me? I think that delivery, because it's so shocking for the person that you're now potentially going to federal prison and you're facing federal criminal charges, I think for people that are not really close to you, that's going to be very off-putting and somewhat intimidating, and may cause them to really distance themselves. Before you ask a person for a character reference letter to use in federal court, you need to first ease them into, if they don't already know about your legal situation, you want to ease them into it. You want the person, before you ask them to do a character reference for you, to be aware of your legal situation. And they don't have to know details. Like my situation, if I was to ask a person for a character reference letter, the main things that would matter is that they know that, my home was raided, there were some narcotics recovered, and the physical possession of a person who said during the raid that I knew nothing about the narcotics. They were not mine. They were his. Like, he took full responsibility. And that I'm a person who has suffered immensely since then. I mean, one, just due to life and a series of unfortunate events. Since my home was raided, my stepfather's Alzheimer's has progressed tremendously. And it's getting scary. It's late stage. Another one of my parents recently found out they had cancer. I've had some health issues, since then. I've lost my home. I found myself in a custody battle, over my youngest child subsequent to my home being raided. I've been ostracized socially from a lot of circles. And, these are the things that matter. These are the things that a person you're asking for a character reference letter should know. They should know, I would say, I'm not really comfortable saying if I knew or did not know anything right now because, but I can say that the plea deal that the judge accepted that I agreed to that has made me now a felon, did state that, that I was, complicit, in the importation of narcotics. And, and then, of course, there are things I would say to them that I can't say on YouTube, especially my case pending still. I'm waiting for sentencing. But, hypothetically, if I was a person who truly feels that to be correct, I would probably explain a little bit of why I chose to do that or the circumstances, because for me that would be conduct that isn't typical. And you want to really, that point needs to be drove home too, that your criminal conduct is not your typical conduct. If I feel that statement is actually really inflated and incorrect, I would explain, what responsibility I actually have in the situation. And, maybe even get into why I feel that, such I'm trying to think how I could say this, because, I'm pre-sentenced. Why such extreme statements were put in my plea deal that, that it's either sign it or lose the plea deal. But I would briefly get into all that because, and if this is a person that you're not comfortable having that conversation with, or, having that conversation with is going to scare them off potentially or really make them want to just distance themselves from you, then that's not a person that you should be trying to get a character reference letter from. Because they're not a person who knows you well enough or knows your circumstances well enough to really give much perspective or insight to the judge. But you want to keep your character reference letters, like I said, to about half a dozen. If you're going to be getting professional references, which a lot of people don't do because they don't want their legal situation to be kind of spilled over into their professional situation if it hasn't been already, which I think is a smart move. But if you're getting professional, you want to get, maybe a couple professional ones at the most. You want to get a couple personal, but of people of affluence or people of higher social, kind of, status, maybe your pastor, your preacher, your rabbi, your imam. If you're a member of the Elks, the American Legion, the VFW, the Owls, whatever, the Mooses, get a reference from someone within that group, that kind of represents that group in a way. And then you want your other two to be, personal. You want them personal, like very close friends or family members. If you're not going to do professional, then I would say do it about 50%. So a few, personal people in your life, and a few personal people that are somewhat affluent or have some type of social status that the judge is going to see and respect. You do not want these people again saying, saying that you're innocent, saying that they know you didn't do it, saying that you don't deserve to go to prison, you won't survive in prison, your family deserves for you not to go to prison, or your company is going to just, sink without you because you're such an amazing employee if you go to prison. You don't want to do that, because when you do that, judges often, their thought process is not, oh no, I should be cautious in sentencing this person to prison time because the other people will be impacted. Instead, what the judge hears is, this person committed crimes knowing other people would become impacted and didn't give didn't give a rip about none of that, And you don't want the judge to be reminded that you committed your crimes, with others dependent upon you, knowing, or maybe you didn't even think about it. I think most people, it just doesn't even cross their mind. But, with the circumstance that people would be harmed if you were to be incarcerated. So not only were your crimes whatever safety risks they pose to the public or whatever, but your crimes were also very selfish in the sense that they endangered, other people or other businesses, that should be the people or businesses you're protecting. So again, it's kind of the gist of what you want in your personal reference letters. That's kind of how you should go about asking them. ease people into it, you really need to ask yourself, is this someone who's really a good candidate to give me a personal reference? Is this someone who's known me long enough, who knows me well enough? Is this someone who's familiar to some degree, at least, with my legal situation, that we can have a conversation about my legal situation, and have that conversation before you ask for them to do a character reference for you. Have that conversation one day casually on the front porch or over coffee, or at, well, while you two are out to lunch together, and then wait a couple of days, and then call them, or text them. I know younger people do a lot of texting. I'm not that cool. And I know business people do a lot of emailing. I'm also not that cool. So in my world, it's just call. But, contact them and say, hey, Henry, remember that conversation we had the other day on your porch? Or remember when we were out to lunch the other day and I was, telling you about my legal situation a little more in depth and whatever. And, because generally when you have this conversation with someone, they're going to say, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. If you need anything, let me know. Now, most people will say this and not follow up. If you call their bluff, they're not going to do anything for you, or very little. But most people just almost as a reflex offer that. And say, remember how you had said, if I need anything to let you know, if there's any way you could help, let you know. And if they didn't say that, obviously leave that part out. But when they say, yeah, I remember that, sure, of course, what do you need? And say, listen, there's these things called character reference letters, that judges like. And, really the whole purpose, and explain to them, the purpose is not for anybody to excuse me or beg that I don't go to prison or justify my actions or say that I'm innocent. Those things shouldn't even be really even discussed in the letter, but rather, a person to just say how they know me aside from all the legal mess and what my character is outside of that, because the judge needs to see that, see me as a human being and not just as a number, a criminal ID number, a BOP number, U.S. Marshal Service number. The judge needs to see me. I want the judge to be able to see me in the way that you see me. That's another good thing to say to people who ask for personal narratives or for character references from. I really need you to kind of just write up something, and I want you to really tell the judge how you see me and what your experience has been with me, and how you view my character, and if you can even give an example or two as to why you view my character the way you do, then that's even better. And I'd really, really appreciate it. Please, give it to me or email or send it to me, and then, the process is, then I read it and then I forward it to my lawyer, and then my lawyer submits it to the court. Tell them that. Don't have them just going all willy-nilly off on their own, going rogue and writing a letter to your judge and mailing it out from their house, because they may say some things in there that are not beneficial to you. They may be justifying your crimes. They may be excusing you. They may be begging for your freedom, all of which are huge red flags, no-nos, in character reference letters. So you want an opportunity to actually, if you just tell the person this is the formality, this is the process of properly submitting it, they'll understand that. But really, not only is it the proper process, but more importantly, it gives you and your lawyer a chance to censor and filter out anything that may not be beneficial. And a lot of people, if something they're saying is not beneficial, it really is just a fluke. It's an accident. It's unintentional. Because, they're not in this journey. They've probably never been through the federal justice system. They've probably never studied criminal law. They don't know, what are points to hit and what are points to avoid. So, anywho, that's my take on personal narratives and character reference letters. I said in a previous video I would likely not do a personal narrative because I feel like my PSR should portray me reasonably, as my character in a reasonable way. And I feel like the sentencing memorandum will ideally portray me, as I should be portrayed as well. So I felt like a personal narrative would just be redundant and repetitive. But I thought about it. I should be seeing my PSR here in a couple weeks. I'm hopeful that will give the proper impression. My sentencing memorandum will be submitted to the court probably within a month or so. And I know that will give a good perspective. But there's some things that, your sentencing memorandum is kind of brief. It's not a real long document. And so it's really kind of limited what can be in there. And what should be in there from the perspective of your lawyer, because that's how it is written, is very different than what can or should be included, in your story from the perspective as you, speaking in first person. So, I'm going to submit a personal narrative. I decided I am going to do that because I feel like even if it's unnecessary, Even if my PSR portrays me as a decent person, and this is aberrant conduct, this is highly unusual that I would be in this situation, and even if my sentencing memorandum portrays the unique and difficult circumstances that have put me in this position, I feel like the judge still needs to hear from me, regarding, just kind of my story, and and how I've been impacted, by the fact that, criminal charges have been, that my house was raided and this whole ball started rolling, and how my life is very different now than it was before then, in very bad ways, and how I probably, I probably would have made better decisions, if a variety of my circumstances had been slightly different. And also, I know that does not excuse me, and that does not justify anything, but that I am consciously trying to, to mitigate the harm I've done in my community, and I'm consciously trying to better myself as a person to not find myself in a similar situation in the future. So, anywho, so yes, that's my take on personal narratives and character reference letters. As always, if you like the video, feel free to subscribe, if you'd like to hear more from me. Also hit the notification, the dingy button, if you want to know when new videos are released. If you just subscribe, you're probably not going to know when I drop new videos. And more importantly, as we know, in a few months, I'll be going to federal prison for a period of months, probably years. And during that time, I can't make new content. I can't post new content. I won't have internet access. But as soon as I come home, probably in the halfway house, I'll start, making new videos. So, I definitely think that that's going to be a real metamorphosis, a real transforming journey for me, actually going through prison, and, and going through, having that experience firsthand, and then having the halfway house experience firsthand before I have my reentry experience firsthand. So, and I think that will change a lot about me potentially, and I don't know if that's good or bad, honestly. But, if you hit the notifications bell, then when I start making new content, you'll see that as well. And, so you'll be privy to my journey, from now all the way through, halfway house, my prison experience, reentry, and really kind of trying to get back and build back my life. And hopefully this will help you do the same, or help a loved one do the same, or just give you the educational, experience of seeing a person go through this voyage. So thank you very much for your time. I hope everyone has a beautiful week. Fly high, my phoenixes. And this is your Federal Phoenix signing off. Good day. God bless.